We're also investing record amounts in healthcare, education, and infrastructure.
Politicians, all the liars.
Last year, our population grew at a record rate of 4.4%, or more than 200,000 people. That's like adding another Lethbridge or another Airdrie to our province, and we're set to reach 5 million people in 2025. That has made it difficult for many Albertans and families to find family doctors and has put pressure on every aspect of the healthcare system, from surgeries to emergency rooms and beyond.
Politicians, all the liars.
This is Allegedly in Alberta. Powered by Streamlabs Talk Studio with your host, Darrin Thompson.
I guess the first thing would be, how did you get your start? Like, how did you become the TikTok famous Knitty that everyone knows?
I don't even know. It just sort of happened. I started talking about things that were just really frustrating me, and it turned out that I really wasn't alone in that. And it kind of just took off from there. This has been a hobby of mine since forever. I've always been a researcher. I've always been somebody who's fascinated by history and patterns and just putting the pieces together. And so TikTok really gave me the opportunity to have a voice in that space. It was honestly just a bigger audience to what I was already doing, kind of with grassroots movements through all of my life. And it just snowballed. I don't even know how it happened. It just did.
That's awesome. Like I said, it's just out of, I mean, not say you came out of nowhere, because like, if anyone's been following, you've had a voice for the voiceless in your community and in the area for a long time. But the Knitty Knits aspect, I mean, of course, the knit is based on the fact that you like to knit. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I started talking on TikTok the same way I talk to my community, and I gave myself the name Knit Hoe, like HOE, because I love gardening and I thought it was a ridiculous play on words. But people kept getting censored when they tried to tag me, and their comments kept getting reported. So I changed it to Knitty Knits, and it just kind of stuck. And I've chosen to stick with it because our family last name is really recognizable. It's quite unique. And I wanted to have some separation between what I was doing on the internet and my kids, and to give them some protection from everything that I was talking about. So at one point in time, I really did think about just going by my regular name, but I get a lot of death threats. It's actually something that happens on a pretty consistent and regular basis. So I stuck with Knitty Knits, and I'm not going back.
Not to do any sort of judgment on the gender, but I mean, a lot of female voices that are against the system are targeted, like yourself. I know others that are facing these things, and a lot of it is that misogynist piece where they think that they can, because you're female, they think they can bully you, or they can make you, please scare you to be quiet.
It's been something that I've had to really learn along the way. At first, it really got under my skin, and I would feel terrible that I hurt someone's feelings, or I would get really caught up in kind of like the drama of it all. And as I've sat in this space longer, I've realized that 9 times out of 10 it's distractionary. If I sit and I think about what content I've been making, it almost always is a topic that people don't want me talking about. And so kind of like the drama, the death threats, and the ridiculousness just distracts from what we should be actually focused on. I kind of use it as my check-in to be like, oh, I think I'm on the right track. I should probably keep going down that path.
We're seeing it on different social media platforms.
I was not a Twitter user at all. And actually, when I linked up with JD and we started our podcast, he was like, get on Twitter, get on Twitter, get on Twitter. So I finally caved. I started a Twitter. I used it for about 2 weeks, and then I completely abandoned it because I just truly cannot handle the moral compass of Elon Musk. And what that space has become, it's so disheartening. It's so sad that we've lost something that at one point in time was really incredible. And I don't want to say the word revolutionary, but it definitely had a place in a lot of key moments in history. And now it's just such a dumpster fire. I just can't do it. I just can't.
It was revolutionary. Because of the immediacy of like breaking news years ago, like when it was in its infancy. I guess like I would say that I was one of the original Twitter users. When breaking news hit, it hit like what used to be what was Facebook when we first all joined. That's what Twitter was, and then it was more immediate. I mean, yes, it had that the delay because you only had so many characters to do something, but then you could get immediate stuff out and share the links and stuff. And then, yeah, it's just turned awful since, yeah. I mean, it was getting awful before Elon took over, but it's now, we show that there is, the Twitter community is the, because there's not a community anymore. And I know I'm on Blue Sky. We're on Blue Sky a lot. What's been your experience on Blue Sky in comparison?
I don't have that much of a history with Twitter, so I don't know its ins and outs as much. I do like Blue Sky. I do find I have to really deliberately look for content, and I wish it was curated a little bit better. I don't know if that's an issue with the algorithm, and it just needs some time to get its feet under it. But I think it has the potential to be something really special and really cool. It's just not quite there yet.
And that was the thing, is with for my experience, I tried Mastodon, I tried all the other like comparables, and Blue Sky for myself has been the closest thing. What I think, just for anyone watching, to understand the Blue Sky algorithm, or there isn't an algorithm, but to get things to actually start to trend, you have to repost. Just liking something, it looks good on the page, but it doesn't actually share that content. So I don't know if enough people are aware of that. So if you see what we're posting there, usually it's emojis with the finger pointing and the thumbs up and whatever. Just do something to get to that repost piece. And I know because we were doing some of the Team Canada stuff, and we're proudly made in Canada merchandise, we were reposting, and then we got people complaining because, oh, your stuff's always on our feed. And okay, so I'll slow down. You think that we're just spamming you. It's not really. We just understand that you have to do things differently than just wait for someone to share the things. Speaking of the sharing of the things, you were talking about your podcast. How did that start, and where is it right now?
Yeah, so I have had this concept for podcasts for quite a while. I think that there's this really cool linear line between moments in history that lead to a sequence of events. And so some of them can be really funny. We've done some podcast episodes about how like 9/11 caused 50 Shades of Grey and the whole sequence of how we got there. But then some of them are really serious. There's a lot of people who think that Justin Trudeau is in control of all aspects of the housing crisis. He's why houses are super expensive. So because I'm me and I'm a nerd who reads history all the time, I know that the causality relates much deeper into the 1980s. There was a lot of changes to legislation. And so we take those moments in time and talk about how they had a rippling consequence to today, how we got from something really innocuous that happened in like 1985 and how it became what it is today. And so it's called the Tuesday Effect, and really try to cover, I always say I'm going to cover happy topics, or JB tries to cover happy topics, and we're like, whoops, it's late stage capitalism and corruption. So one day we might have a happy episode front to back, but almost always it somehow ties to where the economy is today, or politics, or something.
For happy topics, it's really hard unless you're selling out. I mean, you look at some of the people that I call them the progressives, present themselves as a progressive voice or whatever, but then ends up talking more about their business ventures, or how they make money for this, that, or the other thing, and how if we vote this person in, then we'll have more money. And I'm going, does it really work that way? And I know in my family, I have to not watch as many political programs as I do, because yes, like the ADC piece is Angry Dad Canada. If anyone didn't understand the acronym, I got it when I was in commercial radio up in Peace River, because I was always angry, and and I'm a dad and I'm in Canada, so yeah. Anyway, so that's where I got my stuff. But I was hoping that I could, can we get angry? And the unfortunate part is I become more angry with the progressives than I do with the UCP or the conservatives or whatever, because the fact that I don't care what the UCP like. I mean, I'm following what the hell they're saying because they're screwing us over, like they're stabbing us, stealing, whatever. But I don't really care what they're saying because it's all lies and bullshit. Like, I care about what's coming from a progressive voice, because that's what we need to come together and have. But then when your progressive voice is, okay, you have to donate to our party, you're starting to lose the narrative for me. I don't know how you are with that.
Well, I think there's a catch-22, and it's actually very interesting that you brought this up today, because yesterday I went and sat and had coffee with Dennis Irwin from the NDP, and we had a lovely chat. And one of her main issues is how she hates having to fundraise, and how it's intimate to the movement. She has to fundraise. It's expected her to fundraise. It's a part of her job.
Hoping we can figure it out from that side. Yeah, I mean, and Knitty, I really want to hear this. I mean, having a conversation with Janice Irwin, as a person, I love Janice. I think she's a fantastic person. I think she's doing what she can for her constituents and is very strong in advocating for her constituents. But then, like Knitty was saying about the waters started getting muddy when it comes to the fundraising for the party concept. And then getting caught up in that whole what we're dealing with here in regards of the distraction. And that is something that the UCP are notorious with and have been since Jason Kenney's time, where I used the term Matt, distract, deflect, deny, because at the time they had a guy named Matt Wolf who was in charge of the communications, and that was what they did. Like, we've talked about it before, that they put a record number of bills through during the pandemic, and we're facing those consequences. We're suffering that all the way up to today. Like, we're basically just keeping our heads above water. Some of us are not keeping our heads above water. And that is why I want to have this very important conversation with Knitty in regards of what can we do? How can we move forward? What are the ways to move forward? Because I mean, I struggle every day. I know a lot of you struggle every day, and we shouldn't have to struggle. Like, there shouldn't be a point where like we go into the world economy, global economy. There should not be a point where there is only a low percentage of people with all the wealth. 10% of the wealth is owned by 100 people, and 10% is what's left, the crumbs for everyone else. And that's what we're seeing here. Like, bring it closer to home. That's what we're seeing here in Alberta, is those that have and those that haven't been affected by these things directly. They don't think there's a problem. They'll continue to vote blue because they think that it helps them. Okay, so someone is, I will, examples of the Matt defend, distract, deny thing. So what Matt did, it was about having comms people go and take the information that was attacking Premier Kenney at the time, and then make it that person is a NDP staffer, or that person is, well, yeah, we didn't do any of that. And because there is no direct correlation to what was being alleged that they were doing, because we didn't have a direct line. Yeah, and I was just talking about the Matt Wolf and the Matt distract, deny, deflect technique that the UCP would use. And yes, exactly, wasting. Matt would throw whatever kind of BS out there so the press wouldn't be reporting on the controversial stuff that they were doing. And most of it was done during the pandemic when there was no media access to them because it was under safety protocols that you couldn't have actual press conferences. So, and then that's when they started with, oh, hey, we're going to welcome David Staples, our main contributor, or Rick Bell, you're on the line. These people that they choose to let in. Anyway, that was my point. You were talking about the aspect of and the ADHD is working perfect for me, trying to remember what we were exactly talking about. Fundraising, yes, that was the thing. You were talking about Janice Irwin. You sat down with Janice. So yes, love to hear how that went.
Yeah, so we had a pretty lengthy discussion, and one of the topics that we covered was how frustrating it is she has to constantly fundraise. And she's very kind about it, very positive. But my viewpoint of that is all of these progressive politicians are expected to go door knock and raise all this money, and all it does is distract from what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah. And on one hand, I understand, because ultimately the lights need to stay on and they need to have money to actually run their caucus. But at the same time, the UCP's main strategy is to flood us, just like what you're talking about with all of the distractionary techniques under Jason Kenney. We're seeing that tenfold under Danielle Smith. And so you have NDP MLAs who are trying to do their due diligence and read this absolute tsunami of bills that are being dumped on them by the UCP, and they can't keep up. They can't do all the things that they're supposed to do. And then we also have that layer of an expectation in progressive spaces to also be the front person of the march, to also be boots on the ground. So you kind of can't be. You can't do your due diligence, do your homework when they're trying to pass 20 plus bills in a year and all of them are distractionary. The red tape reduction bill is one of the worst bills I've ever read in my entire life. It makes no sense. It touches almost every piece of legislation across all of Alberta. It's an absolute shit show, to be super blunt. So how is somebody who's an NDP MLA supposed to be able to go through that bill with a fine-tooth comb and reflect back to the other laws that this is touching on to make sure that they're not sneaking something in, but then also make sure that they're meeting their fundraising quota, but then also make sure that they're engaged in their community, but then also make sure they're participating in social movements and being the face of a movement. It's kind of too much, and it's an unfair, unattainable expectation. I don't know what the solution is, but I do think it's really important to have those conversations, because I think it really turns off some voters to even want to try to care about the NDP or even vote at all. I think it makes people kind of go, this is a contest and this is sort of ridiculous. I'd love to see somebody just do their due diligence, the bills, being straightforward, getting clarification, stand up with a highlighter and saying, why are you doing this? What is going on here?
Right.
It takes a lot of labor to do that. It takes a lot of energy to do that. You can't manage to raise 50 grand in a quarter to make sure that you're meeting your expectations. So, yeah.
Well, and that was where, when I started the idea for the Accountability Alliance, that was the point, is I understood that we're facing an uphill battle. Unfortunately, I run into so many things that because they like direct competition of other progressives that are electoral third party advertisers or whatever, that, they just want to focus on this, or we have to go and protest. I said, I understand all those things, but how are we keeping them accountable in the ledge?
I live in a place with really bad internet.
You live in Alberta. Let's be real here. There's only certain places that have good internet, and I guess I lucked out because I'm in the Lacombe area, which has allegedly the provincial police. But yeah, anyway,
let me tell you about.
Oh God, yeah,
I could actually rant about that, and it was in one of the bills that I reviewed to set up the sequence of events to even make it happen. So is it legend or is it 36 minutes? I think it's not legend.
I said on our last episode was about, like, the first episode was about the police state. I mean, the UCP police. The fact that took the dog out for a walk last summer and there was 15 patrol cars, and it wasn't Lacombe police, all of them. There was a lot of sheriff vehicles and a lot of peace officers that are there. And I connected the dots about this, that, and the other thing, allegedly. And then the new police chief in Lacombe is the guy who was running the encampment teardowns in Lethbridge, who's connected to Middleton Hope, allegedly connected. I have to keep saying that because my wife said I can't accuse anyone because we don't have the money to take on someone like Sam Arash. So allegedly these things are happening. I mean, I was hoping that calling this thing allegedly in Alberta would cover everything that we're talking about being allegedly, but anyway, it's so frustrating. You just see these things, and I don't blame, like, the mainstream. Okay, I do blame the mainstream media just on the fact that they're allowing people that are just liars to be media people, like the people that just spew the talking points of Daniel Smith and the UCP as good. There's ones that aren't that are trying their best, but I mean, everything's being cut to crap. It's so disheartening, and I was trying to have a good, happy conversation, but I don't know. Like you said, we can't have happy conversations about this stuff.
This has been Allegedly in Alberta. Authorized by Alberta Accountability Alliance, abpolica@gmail.com.